since then, went a bit underground for a while, but of course we all remember him for the boom statements and of course the charisma that he holds. Today, rather sad and unfortunate news is that this man, whom we all know and celebrate as our longest serving president, Jerry John Rawlings, has passed on to eternity after a short illness. And so pretty shortly we should be joining the feed where the family or his family will be calling on the president to make an official announcement to him of the passing of the late former president. Now, His Excellency President Akufo-Addo had earlier issued a statement confirming the demise of Jerry John Rawlings, an insane statement announcing a 7-day mourning for the country. Also, flags across the nation are expected to fly at half-mast. The president has called off his campaign and that of his vice president, and has announced that government or the state will be engaging with the family of the late former President Rawlings on the way forward as to funeral arrangements and burial arrangements. And so, well, we're going to join the feed pretty shortly. But before that, that is the letter from the presidency. You can see on there, President Akufo-Addo announces the death of former President Jerry John Rawlings, and then you can see the signature of the president there as well. It has the seal of the president, that is the coat of arms on there, confirming that this is indeed coming from the presidency. And so that is the statement from His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo confirming the demise of former President Jerry John Rawlings. Now, flag bearer of the NDC, obviously the party's leader, John Dramani Mahama, who was or is on tour in the Ashanti region, has suspended the tour due to the passing of former President Rawlings. He announced earlier that upon receiving news of the passing of the former president, it is impossible to continue with his tour of the region, and so has called it off. We do not know yet whether he will be making his way back to Accra to commiserate with the family, but as it stands, former President John Dramani Mahama has called off his campaign tour of the Ashanti region due to the demise of late former President Jerry John Rawlings. Now, Speaker of Parliament has also issued a statement on behalf of the House, the leadership of the House and the Clerk of Parliament to the effect of the death of late President or former President Jerry John Rawlings. Remember, he was our longest serving president, having ruled the country for 20 years thereabout. Now, the office or his office, that of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, has also issued a statement, one which was signed by his daughter and MP, Member of Parliament for Klote Kole, Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, also confirming the death of the former president. Now, in that letter, the family asked for some privacy to be able to mourn their departed father, brother, uncle, and of course breadwinner. And so as we have it, that is the story so far. Earlier we brought you some live pictures from the Ridge residence of the former president, where Umaru Sanda interacted or engaged some persons who are thrown there to either confirm the death of the former president or to sympathize with his family. Now, there are those who are still in doubt, obviously owing to the love they have for the former president, and so it is out of shock. They are in disbelief that such a vibrant man, an active man, a vociferous individual had passed so suddenly. Remember that he had buried his mother, Madame Victoria Abotui, who had passed on about a month ago. He had buried him just some 2 or 3 weeks back. She pegged the age 101 before passing, and so well, what we are hearing or picking up is that after her demise or after that burial, the late former president hasn't really been himself. But officially, we understand that he passed away at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital after a short illness. As the cause of his death is yet unknown, we cannot confirm that. But indeed, what we can confirm is that the former president has passed on to eternity. Fond memories have been shared of him, and truth is, love him or loathe him, you would remember him for one thing or the other. We've seen some comments, some reactions, especially on social media, notably that of the president of Liberia, Ponwia, commiserating with the people of Ghana, the president of Ghana and the government of Ghana, as well as his family, sharing some condolences with the people of Ghana. So let's bring you a brief bio of the late former president Jerry John Rawlings, born on June 22, 1947 as Jerry Rawlings John, a former Ghanaian military leader and subsequent politician. Served Ghana for 20 years between 1981 to 2001. Also served briefly in 1979. Led the military junta until 1992 and then served 2 terms as the democratically elected president of Ghana. Now, Mr. Rawlings initially came to power in Ghana as a flight lieutenant of the Ghana Air Force following a coup d'etat in 1979. Now, prior to that, he led an unsuccessful coup attempt against the ruling military government on May 15, 1979, just 5 weeks before scheduled democratic elections were due to take place. Now, after initially handing power over to a civilian government, he took back control of the country on December 31, 1981, as the chairman of the Provisional National Defense Council, PNDC. In 1992, Mr. Rawlings resigned from the military and from the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and became the first president of the Fourth Republic. And so that is a brief bio of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, who passed on at the age of 73 in the early hours of Thursday, November 12, 2020 at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Now, what we can confirm, or what we can say from Citi TV is that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has formally issued a statement to confirm his death and subsequently issued some guidelines as to what or how we should comport ourselves or behave as a people, as a nation in Ghana, at least for the next 7 days. With state of mourning for the next 7 days. Flags should fly at half-mast for the next 7 days, and in honor of the memory of the former president, the President Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Dr. Bawumia have suspended their political campaigns for same period. We understand the government will work closely with the family of the late president on the arrangements for a fitting state funeral for the late president, and will keep the nation informed accordingly. So indeed, a great tree has fallen, and Ghana is poorer for this loss. We pray that the soul of the former president rest in perfect peace. And so basically that is the sad news, or the situation where we are having to deal with as a country. But on the streets of Accra, tributes have been coming in. People have been sharing all kinds of mixed reactions upon hearing the news. Let's take a sneak peek at that, and then when we come back, we continue.
It's really a sudden thing. I really love the man so much, and I'm having goosebumps all over me when I heard it. It's rather unfortunate that we've lost an important person like this. But what I want to tell each and everyone is that we should hold on to our peace, and then we should love each other no matter where we are, no matter who is leading us, anything. let us love each other. And I believe love is everything. Love conquers everything on this world. I really remember that man very much, and I love him for who he is. Some end this in Kranibi if and the way the man was saying it in local dialects, it was really, really funny. That's one thing I really like about that man, yeah. And the way he accepts anyone who comes his way. I really love that man. I don't know whether the NPP, NDC, we've really lost someone very, very important. There is not a time to say because he belongs to NDC or any other political party, we shouldn't love each other. We love him so much. So wherever he is, may God be with him and rest in peace too.
I feel bad about the whole issue because we are not expecting it. And it's badly to all of us that we are entering into even an election year that this thing has happened to us. I just feel bad about the whole issue. Well, if I remember things that this man has done, he has done a lot. I can't count it. I can't even, I don't know what to say right now about the whole. He has done a lot to this country. Yeah, he has done a lot to us. Do we feel bad about the whole issue?
Well, so those were some Ghanaians sharing their thoughts, their views, their reactions to the sad news of the demise of former President Jerry John Rawlings there. And we're still waiting to join that feed where his family would officially be informing the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, of his death. But the story so far is that he died at 10 minutes after 10 on Thursday morning, November 12, 2020, at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital after a short illness. And we've run through his bio. We know that he died at the age of 73. Perhaps most striking is the fact that he had just or recently buried his mother, Madame Victoria Agbotui, who died at the age of 101. And so, indeed, the timing of his death and the incidences or circumstances surrounding his death is one that should cause the nation to reflect on his life, his achievements, and, of course, the many things he had done as a leader of this country. And then, of course, dying at a time where we just have about 25 days to go into our general elections really should have a bearing on how we conduct ourselves before, during, and after the polls, knowing that he's one that would have wished or would have loved to see a peaceful election. So, indeed, former President Jerry John Rawlings, Papa J, as he was or is affectionately called, has passed on to eternity. Sad news. We've had reactions from all 16 regions, and generally it is one of a sad state. You will find that people are in a solemn mood mourning the passing of the former president. We spoke to a correspondent or a broadcaster or a journalist with one of our partner stations, Freedom FM in the Volta region, and he painted us a picture of the mood in and around Sogakope and Tefle, where the former president has a residence, and there's so many interesting things that people will look out for to be sure that indeed he had come into the area. And of course, his countenance, his demeanor when he came there recounts a story of an Abodo seller who says the former president will always pack at her spot, buy some and interact with the other traders. So indeed, his charisma is one that you would remember him for. A joyous man, if I can say, one that will stop in the middle of traffic and direct the traffic just to make way or ease the congestion for other road users to also be able to access the road. One that will step into the gutter and dig with the ordinary Ghanaian just to be sure that the work is done. This is the type of man, human, that we have lost as a country, and it should unite us enough to be able to mourn him, and of course going forward inform how we conduct ourselves as a people. So at age 73, former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings has given up the ghost, and so that perhaps is the story that will be making the headlines from now till perhaps election day, and of course should inform activities of politicians going forward. We do not expect the heightened tensions prior to his death that is usually characterized with election years. Now that we have confirmation that indeed a former president has passed on, knowing the type of influence he's had on the two major political parties and indeed some of the smaller parties, so that indeed we do not have that kind of heightened tension in the country. But we can take some more reactions that we've had so far. If we have those videos, let's have those videos. Let's watch them.
The various kinds of assistance, help, in various ways, various forms. Government including state assistant variants, opposition opposition. Words will never be enough to say a big thank you for peace that prevailed is one way of also thanking. And that is my duty, that is our duty and our responsibility. And then just one more point. Madam Kukunami, Cemetery Ayimiala, Manolo, it's a very tiny little place. And behind LNG, there will always be the opportunity. Let me invite visit your gravestone. Yeah, we just need a family. Not because of any special reason. It's just that I'm a fumata, but we can do that from tomorrow onwards. You have Mr. Governor, if I Miga, Jonafia, Akufo-Addo, crowd into the cemetery. Three people in a room. By the following morning, one was dead. And the other two who were alive were arrested and taken to court. And as they were asking them, or as the proceedings were going on, the case was beginning to find one of them guilty. And they were going to make a pronouncement on him. You know what he asked? The one who's alive, he and I, we come from the same village. We've sworn on the Bible, sworn on the Quran, sworn on the sword, and yet I'm the one being found guilty. Please, I beg the judge, etc., take us to the village we come from. We have a shrine over there, and let us go and swear on that shrine and see whether I am innocent or he is the culprit, whether I'm the murderer or he is the culprit. That's all the question I asked these Catholic priests. They could not answer me because they know you're not going to swallow any poison, but they know that we don't fear that Bible, we don't fear that Quran, but when it comes to our shrine, that one we dare not joke with it, we'll go and tell the truth. The white man who brought the Bible into my country, your continent, the Muslim who brought whatever it is, he is the same person who has gone and invented the lie detector test, the chemical interrogation test. I would dare you to go and line up some of your finest policemen, some of your finest heads, some of your finest, what you call it, judges. Make any allegations against me, you included. Whatever questions you want to ask, take me through a chemical interrogation. I will be the one who will pass. I wonder how many of you will pass. You know something, Chief? If we can learn to be bold enough to restore the value of truth in our society, then we will have justice. Without truth, we cannot get justice. We cannot get justice. And that's why we're suffering.
Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes, you know, these superpowers must learn to accommodate and to live and to accept patriotic leadership, patriotic citizens. Too often, they're happier with people who are not patriots. But you in Europe, excuse me, don't get angry, you never seem to know the role that some of your bad businessmen, you have good businessmen, and I respect them, but some of your bad businessmen are always doing bad things on our continent. And it's our people who suffer. Has been committing the most atrocious crimes. I'm not saying this because I'm in a position. I would have wished they had continued from where we left off. I would have saluted them and praised them. My country would be flying. But my country is involved in the most massive corruption, some of the brutal killings that have taken place, terrorizing, recruiting people from their parties into the police, the military, etc. And yet, BBC, CNN, Sky, American, media, the print media are all quiet because they want to portray the image of that fine Ghana as a showcase for the rest of Africa, so that they can use Ghana, who has done so well from my time into this time, and they are keeping quiet about this atrocious, the image of this government, because they do not want to undermine. They have enough problem in Afghanistan, they have enough problem in whatever it is, so they do not want to lose the situation in Africa in terms of the New World Order. The unfortunate thing is that I don't care who you, in Italy, in France, in Britain, America bring into power in my country. But I would wish you would contain them enough from declining into massive corruption and brutality and tyrannical tendencies. Because if you do not contain them, what happens is that they become so corrupt, they are now afraid of free and fair elections, and they refuse to leave power, and then we have volcanic eruptions.
There was a time when we saw the white man, our colonial powers, as our enemies. But I think, no, not that I think, something that is worse than an enemy is a traitor. Yes. And when we won our freedom, some of our countries were led by some of the most noble nationalists, of our time. But at the same time, with the passage of time, some of them became treacherous and rather betrayed our aspirations. In effect, what I'm trying to say is that as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being.
All right, so those were some clips of the late former president that we put together here. But we understand the family is ready, calling on His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And so we're joining that feed right away.
The family of former President Jerry John Rawlings is here to inform you formally of the person of our former president. The family is led by Colonel Aguchi. At this juncture, the spokesperson, Mr. Blagoji, is being kindly invited to speak. Mr. Blagoji.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, Honorable Chief of Staff, members of the government. As it has been said, a great tragedy has befallen us as a country and as a family. Some 4 weeks ago, we were here to inform the presidency of the death of our mother, our grandmother, our sister, and the president, because of his special love for the ex-president, the former president, assisted us a lot in the burial of our mother. Just some few weeks or some few days after the burial, the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, fell sick and was hospitalized. A lot of efforts were made. I know the president was in touch with his brother. Little did we know that former president will leave us. So we've come here formally to inform the president and the entire government that this is what has happened. It is true. Jerry John Rawlings is no more. And we deem it appropriate to come and inform you officially. And with me, the delegation is General Joshua Botri, Honorable Senator Rawlings, Mr. Michael Susudis, Santua Rawlings, Tamina Rawlings, and then Celia Aholu, and then Richard, Uncle Richard, Bill Captain Richard Fojo. So we've come this evening to formally inform you of what has befallen us and has befallen the nation. Thank you very much.
Our Chief of Staff, Colonel Butri, members of the Rawlings family. First of all, I have to welcome you to the seat of the presidency of our country, to Jubilee House, and extend my deepest condolence and sympathies to the family. To now, we have to call her his widow, children, brothers, cousins, entire family. I was given this information this morning when I arrived at the office, and I found it hard up to now to really incorporate, assimilate the information. There's a man of great vitality, dynamism and energy. It's very difficult to conceive of him as a dead body lying in a morgue. But then, I think one of the things that all of us have got to get used to is that the Almighty has His own plans for each one of us. And improbable as some things may be, nevertheless they happen. It's a moment for reflection and for continuing to believe in His purpose, that He has a purpose for each one of us. And as it appears, former president's work here on earth has come to an end. He and I had a tempestuous relationship going over many, many years. But I believe that we came to see value in each other. That's how I put it by the end. Extremely disturbed and saddened by his passage. He's not an ordinary Ghanaian. He was the first president of our Fourth Republic, a man who held the supreme office in Ghana, and therefore his passage has to be a matter for the Ghanaian nation. I know the feeling of family on such an occasion, but I think that you would understand if I say that on the death of such a man, precedence has to be given to the state of Ghana. So the Chief of Staff, their office, will be in touch with Colonel Abu and the family, and Akufo-Addo Rawlings, for us to agree on how we proceed. Time for funeral, all those things have to be agreed upon, but that the state has to pull out all the stops and make sure that he is given a most befitting and dignified exit. I'm determined to do that. I think his contribution to this country's history is there for all to see. And at the end, he's had to leave. I think a grateful nation should show its appreciation of him in the manner in which it organizes his send-off. So I'd like you to tell a former First Lady that that is a decision that I have taken. I'm going to give him a state funeral, and that between her and the Chief of Staff, whatever arrangements that have to be made will be made. Clearly, the wishes of the family cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. But at the end of the day, the actual processes will be the processes of the Ghanaian nation. Just give him a befitting send-off. So I'm appreciate very much your coming to inform me fully and formally of this development. When I was informed about it, I did, through the Chief of Staff, inform the family that having regard to who he was, I believe that the announcement of his death to the country should be the responsibility of the president. And it is on that basis that I had issued a statement announcing formally the death of President Rawlings. So that therefore provides us with the framework within which we can go forward. I know the Colonel very well from a long time ago. I know his attachment to his nephew and the beautiful children, how they must be truly shattered by what has happened today. I extend my deepest condolence to you, to your sisters, and to your brother. It's not going to be an easy time for you these days ahead of us. But I'm sure that some of the strength in him is in you as well. So you'll find a way of being able to accommodate the development. I want to thank you once again for coming to give us this news in a formal manner. We're Ghanaians and we know how these things are done. But as I say, on the part of the state, no effort will be spared to make sure that the president is sent off like a president, a man who has held the highest office. Many people, the founder of the Fourth Republic, and we should honor him as such.
His Excellency, we are thankful for your kind words and the plans that you have
for the burial of the former President Jerry John Rawlings. Our hearts are very heavy at this time, and we just want to say thank you for all the promises, and we hope we'll give our brother fitting burial. Thank you. Yeah. As tradition demands, we brought some drinks to formally announce the death. So I'll just take one as a
Thank you very much. The President may wish to have photos.
Right, so a very sad moment there. Family of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, formally officially announcing his passing to the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, on the family side, family was led by Colonel Akbotui. We saw Mr. Blagoji there speaking for the family, and of course the children of the late former president. We saw Dr. Zanoto Rawlings there. We saw Yasantua also there. Amina Rawlings was also there. We saw Michael Susidis also there. And Mr. Blagoji spoke on behalf of the family, officially announcing to the president that few days after the burial of Madame Akbotui, the former president, took ill and was hospitalized until his demise this morning. The president, on his part, welcomed the family, describing his relationship with the late former president as a tempestuous one, but one in which later they found value in each other. The president assured that the state will spare no effort in giving the late former president a befitting and dignified burial. So there you have it, family of late former President Jerry John Rawlings, officially informing President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo of his demise. We have more on the passing of the late former president on a major bulletin, the Citi Newsroom, which will come to you live at 8 p.m. My name is Nanatufo Boateng. Many thanks for watching.
In the sense that what I'm trying to say is that there was a time when we saw the white man, our colonial powers, as our enemies. But I think, no, not that I think, something that is worse than an enemy is a traitor. Yes. And when we won our freedom, some of our countries were led by some of the most noble nationalists, of our time. But at the same time, with the passage of time, some of them became treacherous and rather betrayed our aspirations. In effect, what I'm trying to say is that as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being westernized to the point where, as I sit here before you, when I wanted to even name my children African names, heroic names, I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church, or that character, back at home, said, no, I cannot. There'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names. I went through an argument with this priest, and I said, listen, I have a right to my identity. Don't take away my identity. Okay? I mean, Christianize me if you may, but don't westernize me. There were times, my wife and I is a great graphic artist. We made some beautiful Christmas cards that depicted Christmas in an African setting. And
please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes, these superpowers must learn to accommodate and to live and to accept patriotic leadership, patriotic citizens. Too often, they're happier with people who are not patriots. But you, in Europe, excuse me, don't get angry, you never seem to know the role that some of your bad businessmen, you have good businessmen, and I respect them, but some of your bad businessmen are always doing bad things on our continent. And it's our people who suffer. Has been committing the most atrocious crimes I'm not saying this because I'm in a position. I would have wished they had continued from where we left off. I would have saluted them and praised them. My country would be flying. But my country is involved in the most massive corruption, some of the brutal killings that have taken place, terrorizing, recruiting people from their parties into the police, the military, etc. And yet, BBC, CNN, Sky, American, media, the print media are all quiet because they want to portray the image of that fine Ghana as a showcase for the rest of Africa, so that they can use Ghana, who has done so well from my time into this time, and they're keeping quiet about this atrocious, the image of this government, because they do not want to undermine. They have enough problem in Afghanistan, they have enough problem in whatever it is, so they do not want to lose the situation in Africa in terms of the New World Order. The unfortunate thing is that I don't care who you, in Italy, in France, in Britain, America bring into power in my country. But I would wish you would contain them enough from declining into massive corruption and brutality and tyrannical tendencies. Because if you do not contain them, what happens is that they become so corrupt, they are now afraid of free and fair elections, and they refuse to leave power, and then we have volcanic eruptions.
There was a time when we saw the white man, our colonial powers, as our enemies. But I think, no, not that I think, something that is worse than an enemy is a traitor. Yes. And when we won our freedom, some of our countries were led by some of the most noble nationalists, of our time. But at the same time, with the passage of time, some of them became treacherous and rather betrayed our aspirations. In effect, what I'm trying to say is that as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being westernized to the point where, as I sit here before you, when I wanted to even name my children African names, heroic names, I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church, or that character, back at home, said, no, I cannot. They'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names. I went through an argument with this priest, and I said, listen, I have a right to my identity. Don't take away my identity. Okay? I mean, Christianize me if you may, but don't westernize me. There were times, my wife and I is a great graphic artist. We made some beautiful Christmas cards that depicted Christmas in an African setting. And the Christmas cards sold so well, even with Catholic nuns, white Catholic nuns. We wanted to secure the patent. I went to an office, the Registrar General's office, to secure the patent. Can you believe that this fellow African, Registrar General, looking at my black personality, black face, told me that, no, I cannot. This was long after independence, and that it's going to take about 3 years. I said, why 3 years? He said, it'll have to go to England. It'll go to England, and it might take about 3 years before I'm granted the right to that patent or whatever it is, the register. In other words, in effect, what I'm trying to say is that, oh, so I have no right to even my creativity. I create my own, you take it away from me, and you have to send it to the colonial power 3 years later when they have reproduced it, and I have no more right to it. So as an African, when you're talking about democracy, etc., let's put it aside. Let me bring you to the current modern situation. We end up with injustice, we end up with corruption, we end up with poverty, we end up with the worst possible things, we end up with the image. I don't have to tell you the image that you have in Africa. I don't have to tell you. Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things,
Comprehensive news. The Citi Newsroom at 8 p.m. on Citi TV is your most engaging news bulletin on TV.
It's a very oh, that's too bad. The youth are still throwing stones. They are still throwing stones here into our direction. And can I come in? I want to come in. Okay.
Telling your stories better with correspondents covering every corner of the country.
Getting access to potable water is a daily struggle for residents of Kakiche